Welcome to Susan LoPresti Wellness Mind, Body, and Soul podcast. This is the go-to space for midlife and mature women who are ready to reclaim their health, boost their energy, and live long, vibrant, and purposeful lives. Each week, we dive into natural wellness, holistic healing, anti-aging strategies, and healthy lifestyle habits to help you feel your best physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Whether you're navigating menopause, working through chronic conditions, or simply wanting to age gracefully and intentionally, this show is your sanctuary for science-backed insights, powerful stories, and soul-nourishing inspiration. So if you're a woman who's in her 40s or older looking to thrive in the next chapter of life, you're in the right place. And today I have a special guest with me, and it's a little bit off topic for my audience, but perhaps not, because today we're going to be talking with Dr. Aumatma Simmons about infertility. Now, you may be listening and saying, well, I'm way past looking to have a child. And that's true for all of us that are in midlife and older. But what about your children? You may have grown children who are married and looking to start a family, and they haven't been able to conceive. And so that's why I decided that Dr. Simmons is a perfect guest for my audience. And the reason why is that she's a mastermind behind the award-winning podcast, Egg Meets Sperm. She's a best-selling author known for Fertility Secrets, What Your Doctor Didn't Tell You About Baby Making, and has nearly 20 years of experience as a double board certified naturopathic endocrinologist. She's dedicated to empowering couples on their journey to building families naturally, and has even trained hundreds of doctors in fertility specialization. Plus, she co-founded Madre Fertility, an innovative app providing personalized fertility insights. She's been featured on major networks like ABC, Fox, CBS, KTLA, and recognized by Mind Body Green and The Bump as a holistic fertility expert. Her TEDx talk, Fertility Secrets, Understanding Your Body's Wisdom, received high praise and highlights her mission to foster healthier parents and a healthier planet. And I really think that my listeners here today are going to treasure the insights into holistic fertility approaches and tips on nurturing both body and mind for fertility. So, although this episode may not be for my audience, please share it out with your grown children who may be on the path to having children and are struggling to get pregnant. And without further ado, Dr. Simmons, welcome to my podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So I wanted to get into this conversation with you about infertility because in my own personal experience, I have some friends of mine where their daughters or sons are trying to conceive and they're having a hard time of it. And so normally this is not a topic for my podcast because my audience is a mature woman, 50 and older. But
Sure.
they may have children that are struggling with infertility issues. And that's why I thought it was a great topic to have you come on and talk about.
Mhm.
And like I said, personally, I do have some friends who their daughters are going through this.
Mhm.
Many of our listeners watching, may have adult children that are struggling to start a family. What
Mhm.
do you think is really behind this modern fertility crisis that's affecting younger generations today?
I think there's several things that are happening all at the same time. One is that women and couples are choosing to wait till later in life to start their families, right? So I think that's important to recognize because fertility has become such a buzzword. It's in social media, it's in the news. We're talking about it in multiple ways, but a big percentage of that is because we're waiting till later in life. And I have no judgment for that. I waited till later in life, and I think that that's okay for people to choose. I think it's just important to know how you're getting to that decision. Second, I think we have kind of an epidemic of toxins in our environment. And I think that that too, like we're talking about it a lot, but I find that a lot of people don't realize that they're actually being exposed to more toxins than they anticipate or even consider. So we can dive into that as far as like what people can do about it. And then the last is I think that there is kind of an overall increase in couples that are struggling to conceive. So 15 years ago, when I started working with fertility, the statistic was about 1 in 8 couples between 18 and 35. And that's really all that we track. After 35, we don't track anymore. So that 18 to 35, 1 in 8 couples were struggling. At this point, that statistic has become 1 in 5. So a lot more people are actually struggling. And I think that it has to do with that like kind of the toxins and stuff like that. But also, we have a lot of underlying issues that are popping up out of the way that we live our lives, diet, lifestyle, supplements, the things that we're choosing to put in and on our bodies
Hmm.
are having an impact. And then, like, we really have to like bring the boys and men into these equations because there is a rising epidemic of low testosterone in young men as well as low sperm counts, motility, morphology in men. So sperm are like steadily declining. And statistically, they're saying that if we continue at the rate that we have been for the last 70 years or so, in the next 15 years, most men will have no sperm left.
Wow.
So we are at this point where we really have to wake up to this is a bigger issue than we understand. And for a lot of your audience that is in that like older generation, they definitely have children that are considering having babies. But even more than that, like the way that we live our lives now, the choices that we're making, and the things that we're exposing our grandchildren to, or like children in that like new age. They're between 5 and 12 or 15. These kids are going to grow up and potentially be that statistic of not having any sperm left or
Wow.
having major struggles with fertility. So we really have to think generations in advance to think about what are we doing? What are the choices that we're making today? And how can we like influence the future generations? Because I know that even your audience wants to have grandkids and wants to see their lineage continue.
Right. So I want to circle back. You said that a lot of couples are choosing to have children a little later in life. So
Mhm.
what age bracket are you talking about? Is it late 30s, early 40s, or even mid to late 40s?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we will see in our practice the average couple is between 35 and 45. After 45, we really do have kind of the need for potential intervention. And this doesn't mean they can't have children after 45. It
Mhm.
just means that more likely than not, these are going to be couples that will need to consider egg donor, sperm donor, embryo donation, something else to help them get to the family that they want.
Right. And as far as men having low sperm counts, what do you think is the reason for that?
Yeah, that's kind of a complex scenario,
Yeah.
but I think that testosterone and sperm are directly connected. And there's two things that is happening with the testosterone epidemic. On one side, these young men are being given testosterone shots as a way to compensate for their low testosterone because low testosterone will impact young men definitely, right? Besides sex drive, they're going to see it's difficult to gain muscle mass.
Mhm.
It's difficult to lose weight. It's difficult for motivation. They're more depressed. There's a whole lot of negative effects of low testosterone in young men. So when they go to their doctors with these issues, the doctor says, you have low testosterone, let's give you testosterone shots. What they're not being told is that the long-term use of this testosterone putting externally into our bodies, not your own testosterone production, but when it's given to you in the form of a shot, a patch, a pill, whatever,
Right.
that the impact of that is that it feedback loops to the brain and shuts off sperm production.
Oh,
And if you get right, so if you get that feedback loop happening for a long period of time, and I'm talking like 2 years or greater, that impact is going to take a very long time to reverse. So these young men that have been put on testosterone, and I've got patients who were given testosterone in their 20s and 30s, and now they're in their 40s wanting to have children, but they were never told that that was going to impact their fertility. So now they come to us and they say, well, why don't I have any sperm? And my question is, well, how long have you been taking testosterone?
right.
And often, if it's 10 years, 15 years, my response to them is like, listen, we could potentially, if we had the time, we could probably get your sperm production back online. But the reality is the amount of time that it's going to take us to do that, you don't have that time because your partner is also in her 40s and she doesn't have that time. So we are seeing this more and more where young young or just like average age men that are coming in like, "Oh, why didn't my doctor tell me?" So that's a really big consideration. And I've talked to young men who are saying, "Well, I don't care about fertility." And they're like 20, right? I wasn't thinking about babies in my 20s. So they're like, well, I can take testosterone now because it's going to get me the result that I want. And I don't care about babies. And my response is, well, you don't care about babies right
No.
now, but the likelihood that that's going to stay that way is really low. And the I have a funny story, which like my brother, who is 3 years younger than me, has said that he doesn't want children from the point he was like 10 years old when he decided he doesn't ever want children in his life. And he has stuck to it. He's in his 40s now, and he's still like, absolutely not, no children. And he's dead set on it. But most men his age have changed how they think about it, right?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, I found the person, I want to create a family. So that is for the majority of the population, that's going to change, whether male or female. You're not thinking about it right now, but you want to make sure that you have that option later.
Yeah.
And if you are essentially putting yourself on a very effective birth control for men to take testosterone, and it's very challenging to reverse, either you have to say, okay, I understand the impact and I'm willing to spend the time, money, and energy that it's going to take to reverse this when I get to an age where I do want to have children,
Hmm.
and then I plan for that. So I really am saying 5 to 7 years we're going to need to like get that sperm production back.
Now,
So I think
what?
that's
Oh,
a
I'm
major
sorry.
one. Sorry. And then the only other one, the correlation that I see, and it's a similar feedback loop, is actually the estrogen that's in our environment. So we think about plastic, phthalates, there's these toxins that mimic estrogen in the body.
Mhm.
And the the same feedback loop happens. So the body goes, "Oh my God, all this estrogen." It's not real estrogen. It's coming from these toxins that look like estrogen compounds.
Yeah.
And the same feedback loop happens. The brain goes, "Oh, too much estrogen. Let's shut off testosterone production and sperm production." So you get a double hit with these like estrogen mimicking compounds that are prevalent in our environment.
Yes.
They're in all of these toxins. So the men are getting hit really hard. Women are also getting hit. But for men, unfortunately, we see those numbers very quickly change, and their bodies don't have as much of a way to process and detox that estrogen out. So, like, women are going to see impacts on their hormones as well. We're going to see greater amounts of endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS, but those are the result of the body not being able to process these hormones in an effective way. And the body kind of goes haywire. For men, the only effect is let's just shut off testosterone and sperm production.
Wow.
And and it's a big unfortunate hit that men are taking with this.
Yeah. So that was the question I was going to ask you, but you answered it, is why is it that men are replacing testosterone? And you answered it. Basically, it's the toxins that are in our environment, in our
Hmm.
food, and just all around us.
Hmm.
Basically, everything around us is toxic these days.
A lot
And
of
that's
things
such a
are.
shame.
Yeah, a lot of things are toxic, and we are not, a lot of the things that we're using, we don't even realize the effect that it will have, right? So we start putting just like certain chemicals in the food, or we start using replacements of things that we didn't really anticipate. We
Mhm.
can talk about like coffee cups, right? You go to Starbucks, you get a
Yeah,
coffee cup. On the outside, you're like, oh, it's paper. But if we pause to think about it, there's no way that paper can actually hold up
right.
against the heat of a hot coffee.
Yes.
So they have to line it with something, and they start lining it with plastic. So you have your morning cup of Joe, and now you're suddenly inputting all of this plastic into your body, which had to have some sort like the convenience that we got from being able to take this cup to go. Oh,
Mhm.
I just stopped off at the cafe before my on my way to work. The convenience of that has a consequence. And often those consequences are not thought all the way through by the people that created them, right? So we we think of like, oh, we have this problem. How do we fix it? Let's put a band-aid over it. And when we put a band-aid over it, it's often going to have a negative effect on our bodies, and no one is testing for it before these solutions are being put out as like, oh, we have the latest and greatest.
Right.
So we're going to keep seeing that, right? Like I just heard a conversation that was happening about the right now, the thing that the trend that has been going on for the last few years is around something called GLP-1s. They're
Yeah.
these drugs that help with weight loss, and they're like magical to a certain extent. But we're not thinking about what that means. When you take a GLP-1, it's having a negative effect in your body. And the effect of that on fertility has not been studied. We don't actually know. And then the conversation that I was hearing that kind of like shook me a little bit was there are companies for processed food that are like, well, people are like losing weight eating our food, but they're like not craving our food anymore because these GLP-1s literally go in and disrupt the types of foods that you'll crave. So processed food industry is freaking out with like, oh my God, we're going to lose money if people stop eating the food that we make or garbage that we make.
Right.
So they're like, well, what can we do about it? We can put anti-GLP-1s onto the food. So now you think, okay, so now you're taking a GLP-1. This company has created a solution for them that is going to ensure their profits, which is anti-GLP-1s already on your food. The problem with that is the people that don't consume GLP-1s. So the people that are still like, I will occasionally eat some chips,
Right.
but it's not like I'm not gonna go and eat chips every single day, and I don't need GLP-1s. So I don't take GLP-1s, but I occasionally consume processed garbage because my taste buds like it. If you put anti-GLP-1s on the food that I consume, potato chips, now I have actually a additional detriment. It was already not good for me. Now it's gonna disrupt the way that my brain processes these hormones and chemicals in the body. And I will start craving this food even more because now I've got a negative hit on my GLP-1 that my body produces naturally. So now I'll crave this food even more, and the likelihood that I will get fatter and fatter from it is way higher.
Wow.
So like every time we create a solution, we create another problem, and then we create another solution. The problem is no one's looking at the big picture, right? No one's saying, well, what does this mean for people that can don't have GLP-1s in their body? They're not putting any extra GLP-1s. They basically are going to be required to have GLP-1s in their body in order to negate the negative effect of potential foods that they consume, which I think is a really big problem because
Yes.
there's side effects to all of it. All of it is going to have a side effect.
It's
Uh,
incredible.
just it's insane to me that this is like this kind of how we think as a human race, and it's unfortunate to me, you know? It's like I want to see humanity survive and I want to see us doing well. And like I do this work because I want to see healthy babies being born into the
Right.
world. And we're not like it gets harder and harder and harder with every step that we take is like, oh, well, we have a fix for that. And then the fix is like, okay, now it's going to need a new fix.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of
So, do you think that the GLP-1s are actually affecting fertility rates?
the truth is that it hasn't been studied for fertility.
Right.
There is small evidence, or there has been these reports of women suddenly getting pregnant while on GLP-1s,
Oh,
unintentional
right.
pregnancies, right? And my belief is that some of that is coming from women losing weight who were potentially obese. And when you lose weight, your body regulates certain hormones. So it suddenly starts not having insulin resistance, which then helps support ovulation, which then
Oh,
potentially helps you get pregnant.
excuse me.
So I think that there is some case studies that have been like, oh, I got on a GLP-1 and I got pregnant. The problem again with the way we think about things is, well, does that mean that a skinny person on a GLP-1 is going to have that effect? Unlikely. Unless you have a problem with insulin resistance, which then is impacting your ovulation, the likely chance that you get pregnant on a GLP-1 is very low. If you have that problem and you take a GLP-1, potentially could help you get pregnant. But it's just not without studies that are structured in a way that really test and help us to understand, like, yes, this is helping or hurting. I'm hesitant to go out and say, hey, everyone trying to get pregnant, get on a GLP-1, because it doesn't work that way. And I know that in our bodies, there's going to be things that are going to be very specifically helpful, and then there are going to be things that might do more harm than good.
Yeah.
And this is still like the GLP-1s are still a gray area. I think that for the right person at the right dose, it could potentially be useful. We just need to figure out if it's actually going to target something that you have going on, or if we're just shooting in the dark and hoping that it's magic, it's going to do some magic that there are no magic pills for.
Yeah. I've known a couple of people who were on it and they had a lot of intestinal issues
Mm-hmm.
from it, very bad
Yes, yes.
stomach pains. And another friend of mine was losing her hair from
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah. Yep.
So we don't even know the long-term effects of these drugs.
Yeah. We
But a
don't.
lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon of that, and it's kind of scary. I wanted to switch gears a little bit and
Yeah.
ask you, so like what advice would you give to a couple who's trying to get pregnant
Mm-hmm.
and they're talking their parents already know that they're having issues.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very gray area, and my friend was mentioning this to me too. Like, one of her daughters has a child,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other daughter, who's also married, is struggling to have a child.
Mm-hmm.
And she walks a fine line of making suggestions. And so how do you handle that? Because it's a very difficult subject and it's very emotional, especially if
Mm-hmm.
a couple is really wanting to have children.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really hard line to walk.
Yes.
I think the best thing to do in that situation, whether it's a friend, a family member, your child, that you want to see them succeed with what it is that they want in their life. And it's really easy to give the advice of something like, oh, just relax, it'll happen.
Yeah.
Or go on a vacation. You stress too much, right? Like these easy things that there might be some correlation with fertility issues, but the reality is it's a little more complex and nuanced than that. I have people who will tell me, no, I'm not stressed. I'm not stressed at all. And then we do testing on them, and their body is extremely stressed.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, let's figure out where that stress is coming from. And it could be something so simple as you have mold in your house, and that is creating a degree of stress in the background that is telling your body, and I think of it as safety or not safe.
Mhm.
It The presence of mold in your environment gives your body the signal of you're not safe. And if you have that signal running, it's really hard for your body to go into reproduction mode. So we're telling you, we might be like on the surface, we're telling this person, just relax, it'll happen. And she's thinking, what are you talking about? I am relaxed. I'm not doing anything. I've quit my job already, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it is like several layers deeper to get to the assessment of, oh, you have mold in your home and that's why your body is stressed. And in that situation, telling her to relax doesn't do anything. We actually need to figure out why her body is not feeling this level of safety that it should. So that's just one example, but I think it's really important to just ask like, what can I do to support you? What would be helpful to support you? And often it's not the question of, are you guys pregnant yet? Are you pregnant
Right.
yet?
Right.
Did you go on vacation yet? Like that is not super helpful.
No.
But when a child or friend is saying, "Hey, I'm struggling with this," the the best thing to do is say, "Oh, I hear you. I'm sorry you're going through this. What can I do to help? Is there anything that I can do to help support you?" And in that moment, you might hear, like, oh, I just want a hug. Like,
Oh,
I want to feel held. Right. And getting that from your mom is so much more helpful than the person that's like, oh, I told you to relax. You work too hard. Maybe you should work less hours. Maybe you should eat better. Whatever the advice is,
right.
I'm just like contemplating, but I think that a lot of that advice is not necessarily the most helpful. And if it comes with the layers of, I feel like sometimes laden with judgment or with, mm, like, I told you this was better for you, or I told you to eat better, or, oh, yeah, you've always been into those sweets. Like, it can just feel like judgment that we
Yeah.
don't necessarily want from our family. I think it's more helpful to say, hey, I know you're going through this. I saw this person, or I found this video, or I found this podcast and thought it would be helpful for you. Check it out. Right? That's a lesser level of kind of planting suggestions rather than giving direct suggestions, which may not come from a place of, well, you don't actually know what's going on for me. So
Right.
maybe don't go there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the more we can find out what they need for support. I actually have a friend who is in her late 40s who told me that they are trying to conceive. And I just like, we were on the phone for an hour. This is a really dear friend of mine who knows that I specialize in fertility. So she's telling me all of this. And in my head, I'm thinking, wow, she's in her late 40s. If this were a client, I would say something so different. But I'm being a friend right now and not a patient, not a doctor for this
Right.
person. And I she kind of like went on and told me how they got to this decision, and she felt like it was really going to happen, and they were surrendered to the process. And I was like, that's really beautiful. Is there anything that you need for support from me? And she said, no, I just got it. Like, I just needed you to hear it. And I was
Oh,
like, okay, cool. I support you. It doesn't, I haven't said anything about this can happen, this can't happen for
right.
you. Maybe you should do lab testing, right? Like, nothing. All she got from me was a ear to listen and someone to give the feedback of what she wanted, which is, I support you. I
Right.
want to see this happen for you. And that's it. And that was really hard for me to do, honestly.
And
Like,
that's all she
because
needed, probably,
right,
from you
right,
at this point
right.
is your support.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
And like what I really wanted to get into was like, oh my God, at this age, you're your chances are so low, and maybe we should do some lab testing because is it really going to happen? And that was happening in my head. And I was like,
Yeah.
shut up, shut up. You know a lot about this, just shut up. So, and I figure like if and when she's ready for it,
Yeah.
she wants me to help assess and understand deeper, she can come back. But if she doesn't, that's okay too. Like
Yeah.
all she needed for me to was in that moment to hear it. Cool. I'm here. I'm
Right.
listening.
Good.
So, yeah, just like having and like having gone through that experience, and I can imagine, I can only imagine if this was if I had a daughter who was going through this, I would be like, oh my God, I want to give her all the things that I know, you know?
Right. But you have your
And
boundaries. You have to stay within the boundaries.
yes, yes, exactly. Exactly. And to be able to say, okay, right now, I'm not doctor, I'm just mom. And I would have to walk that line very closely. And it's when it's mom, like we don't often like I have a lot of patients whose parents are in the medical field or are nutritionists or herbalists or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to be like, oh, my mom gave me these things. And I'm like, okay. And how do we feel about these things? And she's like, well, I don't really know if I can trust it. And like, I know she's been doing this for a long time, but I really am sure that I need to get some lab testing. And I'm like, great, let's do some lab testing. Let's really figure out what it is that you need. So for me, it's fertility is so nuanced, and it has become, even in the world of supplements and nutrition, and like we think that fertility is one problem. You can't get pregnant. But underneath the you can't get pregnant, which I actually think is a symptom of 100 different problems.
Right.
And if we don't actually know what the problem is, all of the solutions are band-aids or quick fixes that we hope are going to have some effect
Right.
that don't always work.
How long, if a couple's trying to conceive, how long would you recommend they wait before they take action and try and
Mm.
figure out with testing why they're not conceiving? Is there a time frame that you usually say, well, let's wait and try a couple of months, or is it a year? What's the time
Yeah,
frame?
that's a great question. The general timeline, the medical profession will tell you wait 12 months of trying, like actively trying when you know you're ovulating.
Okay.
That is the advice. If you're under the age of 35, and wait 6 months of trying if you're over the age of 35. And I desperately think that our medical system is flawed in this recommendation. I truly believe that having someone wait 12 months of trying, which means every month she gets her period, she's depressed, she's feeling like something is wrong, I'm
Failure.
broken,
Yes.
right? Like all of these thoughts are going through her head, and she's repeating that cycle, hope, depression, hope, depression, hope, depression for 12 months. That kind of roller coaster is going to cause more stress than anything else she could be doing. And the only way off of that roller coaster is really figuring out what is happening. Am I going to be able to get pregnant with good reason within like there's some evaluation that someone has done to say you're good, go keep trying, versus being in the unknown and just keeping on this roller coaster is vastly different.
Yeah.
So I truly believe that A, we should be doing testing on women as early as we can possibly do, even before we start trying to conceive, so that we can prep their bodies for conception. So if we could do and my ballpark is the amount of time that you spent planning your wedding should be at the minimum the amount of time that you spend planning your preconception before you actually start trying. So if you spend 18 months on average is the time that a person's planning their wedding, 18 months is how long you need for that preconception period where you've gotten testing, where you change your diet, you change your lifestyle, you're maybe taking some supplements. That's your preconception period. And then when you actually start trying, you give it just a couple of months. By that point, you know exactly when you're ovulating. You know that your cycles are regular. You've had some sort of like tracking that you've been doing to understand your body, your rhythm, your cycles.
Mhm.
So when you get to that conception period, you only need a couple of months to try. And if it doesn't happen at that point, you're quickly going into the next phase where either you're doing some assessing or you're doing lab testing. And that can vary depending on resources and what people have access to. I think that lab testing is a really great a solution if you have the right interpretation of those lab tests. So a lot of women are told, "Oh, you're fine. Everything's fine." But they weren't even tested on the right day, let alone
Oh,
evaluated in the right way.
right.
So you have to do that lab testing on cycle day 3 in order for it to mean anything. And then you want to interpret it in a kind of more functional approach where it's a smaller range of what's quote unquote normal rather than just like a really broad range. And it doesn't mean a whole lot if you have a number within the range. It's just like, yeah, it's normal. We're really looking for what's optimal. So that's option A. And then B is what, like, literally for the last 3 years, I've been spending all of my extra time working on, which is evaluating from a more holistic functional perspective what someone could have going on under the radar that they're potentially missing. So, and that evaluation is free. It's called madrefertility.com, and anyone is welcome to go to that site, do the analysis. It'll take you like 15, 20 minutes to go through all of it. And it's the most detailed analysis that I have seen to date for understanding what might be going on under the surface. And what's really cool is that if there's nothing going on, like we do all of our assessment and there's nothing going on, it's going to be like, great, you're in an awesome place. You're in the optimal fertility zone. Keep trying. And the number of people that tell me that they got pregnant the very next month is really, really high. So
Wow.
if we do that evaluation and I can reasonably say like, yep, you're good. Most of those people will go and get pregnant within a month or two because I just took away all of this stress and anxiety that they
Yeah.
have about whether or not they're going to get pregnant. It's the unknown that becomes so problematic because if I don't know, then I'm stressing and I'm like, oh my God, is it going to work? Is it going to work? Is it going to work? And that anxiety is so harmful to our bodies.
Yeah.
So if I can say, yes, this is totally going to work, you're in a good place, go keep trying. Or actually, hey, there's some things you should pay attention to. Take a few months and optimize those things. And then when you're in the optimal fertility zone, go try. So either way, it's a faster path because now you're no longer guessing.
Mm-hmm.
and you have data that you can put behind it and say, hey, I know that I'm in a good place. I had a very thorough evaluation. I can rest, give it a little bit of time. And if it still doesn't work, like we can still go back to lab testing, but we don't have to like stay in that unknown, which has the most degree of anxiety, I believe.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. I would love it if you could give me that information that I could put in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
the other thing I wanted to go back to quickly before we end is when you were talking about preconception.
Mm,
What advice do you give a woman and a man in
yes.
preconception as far as diet, lifestyle? Like what do you outline for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of diet, I would say the simplest is getting rid of processed foods, getting rid of inflammatory foods. The biggest inflammatory foods are going to be processed food, sugar, dairy,
Mm-hmm.
and potentially soy. And soy is like one of those maybe
Yeah.
inflammatory. And then we have the more fruits and vegetables you can consume, the better. Ideally, the group that we call fruits and vegetables, you're actually opting for more vegetables than fruit. So you want about 1 to 3 servings of fruit. The rest of your 5 to 7 servings are vegetables. And you're getting a variety of vegetables, a variety of colors in your day-to-day food plan. So that's the foundation, good food. In terms of the other intake that I think a lot of people forget about is hydration. And I'm not talking about the fad of electrolyte hydration that everyone is on right now. I'm talking about true hydration, which is high quality filtered water, not in a plastic bottle.
Yeah.
So you have some sort of quality filtration system in your house. Maybe it's reverse osmosis, maybe it's a whole house filter that takes out a bunch of chemicals and toxins and hopefully medications, and you're filtering all of it out and you're drinking this pure water. You can fill it into a glass bottle, stainless steel bottle, and then you're drinking the ideal amount in a day. So the ideal amount is half your body weight in ounces. Coffee and tea actually counts against this. So
Yes.
for every cup of coffee, you need to replace it with 4 equivalent cups of water, in addition to your baseline of half your body weight in ounces. So that's quite a bit of water. And then the the lifestyle piece that I think a lot of people need attention on is sleeping getting high quality sleep. So you should get ideally 8 hours. As a female, you probably need closer to 9, and as a male, you might need can get away with 6 or 7. So, like you're figuring out what your optimal is for sleep, and you wake up rested, that's a really good sign that you've gotten adequate sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And you wake up rested without the need for caffeine. If you need caffeine in the morning, that's a very clear sign that something is out of whack. Like I drink tea in the morning, but I can function without it.
Right.
So it's really important to test yourself and say, hey, if I wake up and don't have tea or coffee within the first hour, am I still good? Is my brain functioning? Am I getting on with my day? The other marker that we ask a lot is like, how many times do you hit the snooze button on your alarm? And if you have to keep snoozing, then you're not getting high quality sleep or you're not getting adequate sleep.
Yeah.
So figuring that out, and those are those are like the good foundations. And then I would say getting rid of toxins from our environment is probably step 2. And I have a really great ebook That's called the Divas Detox Guide. It's not just for women, it's just what I've called it for 15 years. I've kept updating it. So we have a updated ebook on that we can give to all of the listeners if they're interested.
That's
And it
great.
goes through what are the main toxins to get rid of specific for fertility, where are they found, and then what are good replacements, and like includes products and stuff that people can access easily to get replacements of all of these things that are in our environment that are not super helpful.
Wow, that's great. I think you provided us with a lot of great information, and I appreciate you coming on. I think your work is so needed these days, and I love it. And I just wanted to ask you one quick question before we
Sure.
go.
Yeah.
In this preconception stage, do you recommend exercise?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Exercise is great. There's a couple of caveats about exercise. One is that men and women are going to be exercising differently. So, ladies, please don't go out and do what your partner is doing. That's not the best way to go. The second is a lot of women are getting into HIIT training, which
Hmm.
can be okay at specific times in your cycle, but isn't always okay. So, in terms of HIIT training, I would suggest that women kind of do that type of like high intensity exercise in after the menstrual cycle up until ovulation, maybe a couple of days after ovulation. That's it. After that, you need to switch to low intensity exercise, kind of as if you would pretend that you're pregnant. So,
Hmm.
if you were pregnant, you would probably be walking more. You can still continue lifting. You're just not going to do high intensity things. You're not going to do lots of intervals. You're not going to like kind of ramp up your adrenal system, noradrenaline, adrenaline. You're going to take it down a notch. So you can either do the hit at a lower rate, so you decrease intensity, decrease frequency, or you shift into what I call more restorative practices like gentle yoga, walking, doing things that help support blood flow to the uterus and ovaries. One of my favorites is legs up the wall. That's going to help blood flow and circulation to the reproductive organs. That's great to do during the luteal phase or the post-ovulation period. And then for your during your menstrual phase, a lot of women are like, I'm exhausted. I'm like, great, rest. Do not force your body to exercise when you're exhausted.
Yeah,
That is actually more depleting than it is
yeah,
supportive. So if you're tired during that phase, rest. If your body is like, oh, I'm having an amazing cycle and I want to go work out, then go for it. Go work out, but really base it on where your body is at and don't assume that you should continue at the same pace that you do the rest of the month. So those
excellent.
are the specifics around exercise for women that I think a lot of women are like, oh, I stopped exercising altogether. Well, we shouldn't have done that. Or I like am trying to lose weight and I'm doing all of these hit things that my trainer at the gym tells me to do. And it's like, okay, well, we should really make it in tune with your hormones and what's happening in your body rather than like trying to override what your hormones are doing.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate this conversation and I love the work that you're doing. Good luck in the future with everything. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you so much for having me,
You're
Susan.
welcome. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you so much for joining us here today. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you enjoyed this episode and you know of anyone who's struggling to conceive, please share it out with them and let them know that there is hope, as this doctor has offered so much information that's truly valuable. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, and this way you'll know when the next episode is airing. Thank you again. I appreciate each and every one of you. And until the next time, be well, stay happy, and bye for now. Take good care, everyone.